All right, let's go ahead and isolate all of the low poly geo and do a quick UV unwrap. So we'll do hide unselected. I'm going to select everything. We'll delete the history on it. I'm going to unlock the normals, and then I am going to soften all of the edges. So yours should look something like this. Okay, so we'll start with this piece here. This will be pretty easy. So we'll do camera based. Now, what's most important about this one is that this top face needs to be on its own UV shell. And I'll explain why in a minute. So with those selected, I'll just do a camera-based creation, and then over here we just need to grab some edges to cut this. And just either of these sets of edges on the corner will do. We go to face mode, select the faces, we'll go to unfold, hit optimize there. And just kind of spam it until you get something that looks like it'll work. This needs to be pretty close to horizontal or vertical. Now, one thing that we could do to make this a little bit more efficient is we're not going to need a lot of text resolution for this area under here. So I'm actually just going to go ahead and remove that face as well. If I can remember what the right workflow is. So now all of these other pieces here, they should be separate. Yeah, okay, that's great. Oh, this one needs to be cut here. So what I'm going to do ultimately, just kind of explain where we're going here, is even though I now have a few extra UVs that I need to pay for, which is okay, because this thing is pretty low poly to begin with, this thing here would normally take up that much space relative to everything else. But what I can do is I can make it much, much smaller, and you'll never know, because we're never going to be looking at the bottom of it. So that's a little bit of an optimization trick that we can do to make sure that we get a good UV textile density, which is something that we talked about a little bit earlier. We'll do the square button now, so we'll just do a quick camera based on that. And for this, I think, let's see, it's hard to know exactly how it's going to want to unfold. So I'm just going to grab the corners here, and we'll do a cut on that, and then try and optimize. Looks like I missed one. I may need to do the insides as well. So when they're this close, when you have two edges that you've cut but they're super close, that actually means you probably didn't need to cut them. They're not really overlapping. So I'm just going to put those all back together. Looks like they're already selected, so I can just do a sew. It looks like I did forget that edge though. And that's probably going to be okay. What we're really worrying about here is what's going on here and here. We want to make sure there's enough textile resolution, because we're going to put some little, I think there's like little pluses or little arrows or something. In fact, just to make sure we don't have to make any compromises, I'm going to go ahead and separate this stuff out. So we're getting that whole surface there, that whole top surface. So that we can make sure we have a minimum of distortion. So let me go to camera based. And you can see like it immediately looks way better. So we've got a non-manifold geometry issue here. Not unusual with the quad draw to get this. I'm not sure what the problem is, but we can try to fix it. And Maya knows what to do there, so we're all good. All right, and then we've got all this stuff, these little pieces here. This is kind of a lot of shells. What is this piece? This is weird. So there's something in here that's screwed up, and that's probably what Maya was complaining about. So let's just take a closer look. Display, hide, unselected. Weld it in. So there's just some extra stuff in there. I'm just going to try deleting it and see what happens. And it looks fine. So we have all these shells, and maybe we can kind of combine them so that we can reduce our UV count a little bit. So I'll just do a move and sew. And you can see when I grab the edge, the corresponding edge will select itself. And then I have these little orphan ones here, so whatever, let's just see how these unfold. Perfect. That's what I was hoping for. I want something that's going to be real easy to pack. So once we've got that, I feel a little bit more comfortable just putting this other thing here. So we'll do move and sew on that one, and there. So let's just unfold that and unfold that, and then these will just make sure that they're like either vertical or horizontal, and we can go in and make them real perfect in a second if we need to. But they're pretty small, so I'm not that worried about it. Like once I run through and make the texel density consistent with the layout. So over here we've got this issue where we removed whatever that interior weird geo was, so we just need to weld these. Maybe coming over and doing like a move and sew on that. They may actually need to, so this is a good little learning thing here. So I have these faces here that should be weldable, right? Like if I grab this edge, like it should light this edge up. We can see here it's the same exact thing, but it's not. And the reason it's not is because over here, our verts are actually not welded because there was like an extra face in the middle that I deleted. That's a really easy problem to fix. I'm just going to go ahead and select all the verts. We'll go to mesh. What is it? Edit mesh. I always have to track this one down. Merge right here. And we can still see the white line here because even though the verts are merged, we do have a texture seam. So I'll just go through here, and actually I'm going to grab the edges. And now you can see the corresponding edges light up, and I can do a move and sew. All right, I'm going to try something on these. It may work, it may not. There's a straighten UVs feature. Look at that, beautiful. So the way this works is like you have to have it pretty close to what you're looking for. So if it was at that angle and you hit a straighten UVs, it's not necessarily going to give you any good results. But as you get closer to something like this, then it can actually figure out what you're asking for. So give it a little bit of a helping hand there, and it should be able to give you some good results. I can still see there's like something weird happening there, but I'm a lot less worried about it because it'll pack. I think it'll pack just fine. I'm going to do one more unfold, optimize on this just to straighten those edges out a little bit. Great, okay. So let's hop into object mode, go to display and show all. So I know I went through the trouble of making these two little buttons here. So, but what I'm going to do, because they're the exact same as the other one, is I'm just going to delete them real quick and do the UVs and then scoot them back over. So because with this one we created a primitive and used the primitive, we inherit the primitive's UVs, but the proportions are going to be a little bit incorrect because we made some modifications. So we can do the same thing here with our straighten UVs. Yay, it works. Awesome. Okay, let's go ahead and duplicate it over. I can tap the V key, and then we'll want to rename this to below. And for this one, we'll just do a create camera facing. Gonna grab the top faces here. Whoops, you can see I grabbed one on the side. And then I'm going to use a trick to grow my selection. If I hit Shift and greater than, I can grow my selection. There's probably a way to do, like if I go to select, I wouldn't be surprised if grow is in here somewhere. There you go, there's grow. So it's that little greater than. Okay, so greater than will grow your selection. And it looks like I've got some of these faces over here selected, which I don't mean to have selected. So let me zoom out and go into wireframe for just a second. Yeah, so we'll just do a control select on that. And a quick layout here. Camera based, unfold, optimize, give it a little rotation so that we're real close to where we need to go. And then I'm just going to cut it some random spot over there. And we'll unfold this. Try to get it somewhat straight and hit straighten UVs. Cool. All right. So that should be everything. I may need to, oh, I've got to duplicate this. So we'll call this one select low. And we'll move it into place. All right, cool. So in the next video, we will look at laying out all the UVs together and then get everything ready for exporting into Substance Painter.